Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the final session of the convention. We've made it this far, and we have an interesting engagement lined up for the rest of the afternoon. We will start first with a CEO interview, very similar to what we did yesterday. And this time it will be hosted again by Maureen Kahonge from AFRAA. But she will be interviewing Alex Avedi, who is the CEO of Safarilink Aviation. And they will be basically discussing cost competitiveness, optimization of industry costs in the post-COVID era.
Hi, Maureen.
Hello, Aaron. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the second CEO interview. And on this session, I will be having Alex Avedi, the CEO of Safarilink. Safarilink is an airline that was formed in January 2004 and is Kenya's premier safari airline with a network of connecting domestic destinations in Kenya as well as northern Tanzania. We'll hear more in this discussion about the airline, how it's navigated the pandemic, what are its plans and prospects for the future. Welcome, Alex.
Yeah, thank you, Maureen.
A brief intro about yourself. Who is Alex Avedi, and how has it been as you've navigated the role of the CEO for the airline in the past few years?
Okay, thanks for that question. So I started my aviation career, I think, in 2001. So it's almost 22 years now. And started off at Kenya Airways, and then did a brief stint at Kenya Airports Authority, and then Safarilink for the last 4 years. So, but originally, prior to that, my background is actually in banking and finance. So I was a banker for about 8 or so years, basically doing risk management and money markets, forex trading, that sort of thing. So I just changed from banking and finance into aviation.
And you've never looked back since?
No. Yeah.
Good to hear. Aviation is a very exciting industry, very passionate aviator we have here. So what is Safarilink's business model and route network and its fleet composition?
Okay, so we actually, I don't think there's any airline in Kenya that flies to as many destinations as we do. I think we fly at least 18 destinations. Of course, the first thing is we are really a safari airline. So we go to all the parks in Kenya. So from the Emara, which everyone knows, but there are lots of other hidden gems in northern Kenya, like Kipia, Samburu, and of course Savo, Amboseli. But people now know us more for our domestic services. But actually, our reason for being is we are a safari airline. And I think last year we were recognized by the World Travel, they called WTA, I think World Tourism Awards, as the best safari airline in Kenya. So yes, we have an extensive network. And also, I think we are also the biggest airline by passenger numbers out of Wilson Airport today.
And how many annual passenger numbers will you be speaking of?
Well, it's about 300,000 passengers.
But I mean, that's before COVID or after COVID?
So we'll have a very interesting chat. Our numbers surprisingly have pivoted. But maybe we'll speak later about that. But our numbers are almost back to
COVID levels.
Yeah, COVID levels.
So in line with Willie Walsh's statement that the outlook for going back to the 2019 figures more or less will be in 2023. Safarilink is almost there.
Right.
It's a good indication. And your traffic, you said it's safari. So is your catchment domestic Kenyans, or is it international?
No, primarily 80% of our business is international. And then about 20% of our business or thereabouts is local. Really, Kenyans generally prefer to drive. You know, there's also the cost angle, and I think if you're in the country, maybe it's more exciting to drive. So of course, we're also doing a campaign to get more Kenyans to fly, but primarily 70-80% of our traffic for the safari side of things is international.
You've mentioned cost. I'll come back to the cost aspect and why we don't have so many Kenyans taking the flights.
Yeah.
You've talked about 80% of your passenger traffic being international, therefore means COVID pandemic, you are really hardly hit.
Yes.
Will you just take us through what the airline navigated and how you've gotten out of it?
Yeah, so it was, we were basically dead, because when that happened, because initially the world closed its borders to Kenya, and also Kenya decided similarly to close its borders to the world because everyone was trying to protect their citizens. And of course, during that time, in hindsight, it was a lot of knee-jerk, very reactive, and it wasn't really backed by science. But there's a lot of hysteria, to be honest, which was very unfortunate. But anyway, so that's what it was. And so overnight we had no business, and all our aircraft were parked. And so we went down to the drawing board and said, listen, so what can we do? We will not just roll over and die. And we quickly realized that there's an opportunity because we also had turboprop aircraft, bigger turboprop. Primarily we fly, by the way, so our fleet is about 13 or 14 aircraft. I think 4 -8s, and the rest are actually caravan aircraft, which is a single-engine 12-seater aircraft. Extremely versatile for going into and out of the parks. So it's a very rugged aircraft. But it has zero passenger appeal to the domestic market. Most, I think most Kenyans, it's very interesting, and maybe it's, I don't know how to put it, but anyhow, you find that people are willing to pay premium so that they can fly low and see, the landscape and everything. But I guess because we live in this part of the world, for us, the higher up we are and the more stable it is. The tourists love it, but the ordinary Kenyans, no, not so much. So we quickly realized that was not going to work with the caravans. So we decided, all right, we have the -8, what can we do? We had, prior to COVID, a year before, we had already started, just trying to build our brand, make it better known, because it's a very silent brand in the country. It's only known within safari circles. So we decided, we had started that process, and then COVID happened. So we just pivoted and said, okay, we're going to focus on the domestic routes, and we'll sweat our assets. So we very quickly went and added frequencies, because what we did realize is that because the Kenyans were cooped in, and by the way, there's something very interesting about Kenya. Kenya punches way above its weight in Africa in matters domestic travel. I think we're only third or fourth? Okay, there's South Africa, Nigeria. I think we are third in terms of domestic flows. I was actually quite surprised that the North Africans don't even appear on that list, and it could be because maybe the North Africans, if you live in Cairo, then you're basically in Cairo, but Kenyans are all over the place. So we already had a domestic base to speak of. And then also, I was just reading the other day, I think Kenya is about, is it number 4 also, number 5 in Africa, in terms of high net worth individuals living in Kenya. So there's a lot of high net worth dollar millionaires and so forth. So when you look at those factors, it spoke to the fact that there's domestic travel demand. And so we said, okay, we'll focus on that. So, and also because of that high net worth, that ordinarily holidays overseas, now all of a sudden they couldn't go anywhere. So everyone is stuck within the confines of our boundaries. And so we saw a lot of demand going to the coast. So we quickly increased frequencies to Diani, to double daily. We did Lamu and Malindi double daily. And then, of course, like I'd mentioned, and Kisumu. So those were mainly the 3 or 4 stops that we saw a lot of traffic. And then we took a conscious decision just to do, we needed to keep the lights on. So the idea was not to make profit, it was just to break even. It was cash flow, we're just pricing for cash flow to entice, to attract people, to fly, to get out and fly. And actually I was shocked, that there was a huge, the bookings were, we doubled our bookings domestically, or our numbers during the COVID pandemic. In fact, we had the highest number of people coming through our doors during this COVID time, as opposed to, traditionally. And this is obviously, the yield, the fares, that's a different story. Mm-hmm. But in just terms of getting the numbers to pay your bills, cash flow management, yes, very, very successful. Yeah.
Quite good. So for you, COVID activity did not go to completely zero. I know the lockdown initially we went to zero, but you have increased activity.
So what we did is we decided not to close our doors. Mm-hmm. So we said, you know what, we'll keep our doors open. We'll go down to skeleton staff, mm-hmm. Flexi time, have people, but a lot of airlines I know actually just closed their doors and people were working from home. Mm-hmm. We didn't do that. We were actually going to the office.
The focus was more on the numbers, but not on the bottom line. So,
yeah.
And you can continue with the discussion?
Yeah, so the focus really was just cash flow management. And then we realized actually there's so much demand coming through. So that was, it was great. But like I said, the yields are, Kenya is super competitive for the domestic market. It's really, really competitive. So it's very difficult to make money on the, contrary to what most people think, it's very difficult to make money on the domestic front. But we took that in stride. We said, you know what, it's better than having nothing. So let's just build it from there. So we did that, and we were gratified, and it was fantastic that we're always full, especially the weekend. A lot of people wanted just to, they were working from home, and a lot of people wanted to go down to the coast and work from there. So there was huge demand going down to the coast. So we stepped in to try and meet that demand.
And in terms of the yields, now that we are on the phase of recovery, have the yields improved?
No, the yields have gone out slightly, only because fuel. I think the price of fuel last year and this year is about 60 or 70%. And if you look at on the domestic side of things, I think the pricing is only less than $10, $5 to $10. On the ticket. So I think the airlines are bearing the brunt. Maybe 95% of the cost is still being borne by the various airlines. We haven't, because it gets to a point that I don't know. It's a bit like we're trapped. If you go up, then you have no cash flow and you basically die. So the idea was like, let's not die this year, let's live to fight another day. So yeah.
And the crisis has made us resilient. So whatever comes our way, we will be navigating through it.
Right.
Are there any specific lessons as Safarilink that you learned that you would like to share with the audience?
Yeah, there are very many, to be honest. But I think I'll probably speak to about 5 or 6. Because I also know a lot of my friends and competitors are in the room, but I'm a transparent guy, so I'll still tell you what we did.
You can share the secrets,
yes,
spread the goodness.
Yeah, so the first thing is we had no digital marketing visibility or presence, so very quickly we have a very strong brand, but it's one of the best kept secrets. It's only known in the high-end luxury market, but for the mass market, nobody knew our brand, and Kisumu was a very interesting lab for us because nobody knew us. People who are calling us Safaricom, calling us, who are you, how, we actually, we got off our high horse because we had a lot of hubris thinking everyone knows us, but the Kisumu, they didn't know us, they didn't care for us, so it didn't matter. So it was a totally different market, and the way you market to your overseas clients is totally different to the way you market from your domestic client, which is totally different from the way you market to the Kisumu client. I think I love Kisumu. I mean, it's the hardest thing I've ever done to try and understand the Kisumu client, because they're very demanding. They almost have no loyalty to anyone, and they are fully aware of their rights.
But they do pay. They do buy the tickets.
They do. That's what I'm saying. I love that challenge, the Kisumu, because every day it was a lab. It was totally a lab, we were learning every day new things about Kisumu and the Kisumu route. It's incredible, that route, but we learned so much, I actually love that route because the learning and every single day, you totally, you have to be humble, and you're humbled on a daily basis on that route. So you'd ask, why do we fly to Kisumu? Well, like I said, for us, really, it's a good lab, and we figured, our brand is so different, and if we can understand Kisumu, we can conquer any market. And now I dare say we do understand the Kisumu persona, the person, the buyout of Kisumu, so we understand them a lot more. And if we can meet their needs, then, if you look at our flying to the coast, for us, it's a piece of cake. I can put a flight tomorrow and I'll be full, ready. Because the brand is very strong, everyone is aware, so it's not really a problem. But in this other part of Kenya, it was a different story. So we really had to work on, how do we speak to them in their own language, how they can understand that. We had a lot of missteps. So digital marketing, we had to learn a lot, and then how to sell to them, where to sell to them. And then that market basically books at midnight. You have a flight and empty today. As you go 6 o'clock, you're wondering, should we cancel? And you come back in the morning and it's full. And if you look at what time the bookings were made, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., So how do you speak to those people at that time? It's a fantastic market. So yes, digital marketing was certainly something. And then of course we also had constant communication, because we saw a lot of airlines basically just saying, we are working from home. So we said, like I mentioned, we are open. And so we had a skeleton staff, we had people answering phone calls, we had people, if somebody walked in, there was somebody to attend to you. I was going to the office every single day. So we had presence, and we didn't know how much that would come to play in our favor, because what happened is, when the market started opening, our systems were ready. We were taking bookings. We were speaking to clients. We were pushing the bookings, to the future. But that was an important thing. We were very flexible in terms of our cancellation policy. So we were there, and we had presence. So gradually, like I said, when the markets were opening, people remembered us. So because we were there, we never closed for a single day. I think that was really the game changer for us during that period. And then, of course, like I said, we flexed out the fares. We encouraged people as much as possible. And this is really for the safari side of business is, don't cancel. Postponed it to 2021. They still couldn't come in 2021. Postponed it to 2022. And so we allowed people to keep on, pushing their bookings, for the last 2 years, and that worked really well. The other thing that we did is we also looked at our people, and I think the reason why I think we win is because of our people. really, really. Everyone says people are your greatest asset, and typically it's lip service, but I can tell you our Safarilink employees are just so wonderful. And if I tell you how many compliments I get every single day about unsolicited, I don't know even how people find my email, customers, just saying nice things about our staff. Our staff really love to please. So we explained to our staff, because it was really tough, by the way. We all were on pay cuts, 80% immediately. No, actually 3 months without pay. So what we did is we said, listen, all of us will be on a stipend. And so I think the whole company, from myself to whatever, were on 10,000 shillings a month, just a stipend, So we had a stipend, and then there was constant communication to the staff, telling them the situation. I was giving them monthly updates about our bookings. Are we growing? How does it look? All the efforts we are doing through various lobby groups, Kenya Association of Air Operators, Kenya Tourism Federation, lobbying the government to relax some of the entry requirements and so forth. So we're always constant communication with the.
So we want to move from 50 to a figure which is between $5 and $50. And it is what we are discussing as a region. Because from the fuel perspective, if you declare EAC a regional a domestic route, the domestic fuel prices will kick in with very high taxes.
Yeah, thank you. I think that was a comment.
Yeah, there was a comment, and maybe if there's an interjection on that.
No, I agree with my friend Henry. So yes, absolutely. And in fact, you've just reminded me, one of the taxes I forgot to mention, which is a very, very unfair tax, is Railway Development Levy, RDL. So as you know, we compete with the railway and SGR. So any part we bring into the country, I think there's another charge. Is it 1.5 or 2%? It's 1.5%. I think it moved. Yeah, it's now 2%. It was, yeah, it's 2% now. It was increased in the last budget to 2%. So I'm bringing in an engine, and I still have to pay RDL, and I remember my poor friends at Jambojet, when SGR started, initially the numbers collapsed because everyone ran to, So here you are importing stuff to subsidize your competitor.
Very unfair.
Yeah, very unfair. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's quite a number of measures that need to be taken, and I think this will bring us to the conclusion of this interview. A few key points to take home from Safarilink's experience is that digital marketing is one strategies that you can use to better sell and meet your customers' needs. And then people, workforce. Workforce is a key factor for any company's success. So focus on getting the right workforce and keeping them motivated. And another aspect is brought about is customer centricity. If you are able to adequately meet your customers' needs, and we're looking at now the example of Kisumu, then you can actually make good business regardless of whether the competition is stiff. So you need to stand out from your competition by being able to better meet your customers' needs. And partnerships, we cannot overemphasize partnerships. We talked about the aspect of the spares pooling, supporting each other when you need your fellow co-operator to come in. So partnerships with other airlines, partnership with other stakeholders in the value chain is also very important to address this issue of sustainability. And the last aspect is on taxation. We need to have favorable taxation regimes so that we can also address the issue of affordability. If our ticket fares can be affordable, more people get to travel, but we need to address the taxation regimes and look at the aspect of having regional charges. If you can look at the REX sub-regionally as domestic markets, then this can foster some airlines opening new routes and people getting to travel within the recs. And this brings me to the close of the interview. Thank you very much, Alex.
Yeah.
And over to you, MC.